In a world where history often overlooks the heroes who shaped it, one man's courage shines brighter than most. Born into slavery in Virginia in 1840, William E. Carney entered life bound by chains, yet his mind was free. From a young age, he defied the oppressive laws that sought to keep him ignorant, secretly learning to read and write while risking punishment and danger. Education became his quiet rebellion, and the Bible his guide, fueling a spirit that would not be broken by the cruelty of his circumstances. When Carney and his family finally gained freedom and settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts, it would have been easy to rest, to live quietly in a world that had long denied him opportunity. But Carney's story was destined for more than a peaceful life. His thirst for purpose and justice would propel him onto the battlefield, where he would face unimaginable dangers and rise to heroism that history could not ignore. This is not just a story of one man's bravery, it is the story of resilience, determination, and the fight for dignity in the face of overwhelming odds. From secret lessons in a hidden school to the roar of cannon fire on the front lines, William E. Carney's journey reminds us that true courage often comes from those who have been told they are powerless. Stay with us as we uncover the remarkable life of this black hero, the first African American to perform an act of valor that would earn the United States' highest military honor. His legacy is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring fight for equality. If you are inspired by stories of courage and history that deserves to be told, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss a single chapter of this incredible journey. The story of William E. Carney is one you won't to forget. Though William Carney had spent much of his youth immersed in the quiet study of the Bible and the hidden lessons of a secret school, his heart always carried a yearning to serve a purpose greater than himself. For years, he had envisioned a life devoted to ministry, guiding others through faith and the wisdom he had painstakingly acquired against the odds. Yet, as the nation convulsed in the throes of civil war and the call for freedom rang out louder than ever, Carney found that his destiny would take a path far beyond the walls of a church. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation opened the doors of the Union Army to African Americans, a historic decree that allowed men like Carney, long denied the right to fight for their own liberation, to step forward and take their place in the struggle for justice and equality. It was a turning point not only for the nation but for Carney personally, as he realized that the true service to God might now come through defending the principles of freedom on the battlefield, lending his courage to a cause that would shape the destiny of countless others. Carney enlisted in the Tuscarora Guards, a black militia originally formed in New Bedford and later integrated into the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, a regiment destined to become one of the most celebrated African American units of the war. The choice to join the ranks was not one made lightly. He understood the risks that awaited him, the prejudice and scorn that he and his fellow soldiers would face, and the possibility that their lives could be taken for daring to fight alongside white comrades in a nation still deeply divided by color and convention. Yet, Carney's resolve was unshakable, forged in the crucible of a life that had already demanded courage and perseverance. Each step he took toward enlistment was a declaration that he would no longer remain a passive observer of history, but would actively shape it, turning the trials of his past into the strength of his future. The Tuscarora Guards were more than a military unit. They were a statement of defiance and hope. Their name, inspired by leaders of the Haitian Revolution, spoke to a legacy of resilience and triumph over oppression. Carney and his comrades carried not just muskets and rifles, but the weight of centuries of struggle and the aspirations of a people long denied the recognition of their worth. As they drilled and prepared for battle, the discipline and unity required in the ranks mirrored the spiritual and moral fortitude that had guided Carney through his early years, reinforcing the belief that courage was not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. Every march, every practice, and every shared story in the camp fortified their commitment, weaving a sense of purpose that transcended personal ambition and linked each soldier to the broader fight for freedom. Joining the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, Carney found himself part of a historic chapter in the Union Army, one that would test the limits of bravery and endurance. The regiment's formation represented a challenge to the prevailing assumptions about African American capability and character, and each soldier knew that their actions in combat would carry implications far beyond the immediate battle. Carney's enlistment marked the beginning of a journey where faith, courage, and moral conviction would converge, setting the stage for acts of heroism that would resonate for generations. It was a path that demanded sacrifice and resilience, yet it was one Carney embraced fully, recognizing that to fight for the Union was to fight for the liberation of those who had come before him, and for the hope of those who would follow. In stepping forward, Carney transformed his aspirations into action, leaving the quiet contemplation of ministry behind for the thunder of battle, where his courage would ultimately define his legacy. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, which William Carney proudly joined, carried a weight far heavier than the muskets on their shoulders and the uniforms on their backs. They bore the expectations, doubts, and prejudices of a nation that had long denied them recognition, freedom, and respect. As one of the first African American units in the North, every step they took into camp, every drill they performed, and every word spoken among officers and soldiers alike was shadowed by skepticism. Many questioned their courage, doubted their discipline, and even dismissed the possibility that men of color could fight with the same resolve as their white counterparts. Carney and his fellow soldiers were acutely aware that their actions in the coming battles would not only determine military outcomes, but also challenge the deep-seated assumptions that had for centuries constrained the lives of black people in America. They were marching into a struggle not only against the Confederacy, but against the prejudice that had sought to define their very humanity. From the moment they assembled, the regiment faced condescension and scrutiny from those who failed to see beyond the color of their skin. Their white commanding officers, while tasked with training and leading them, sometimes treated them with doubt, unconsciously carrying the biases of a society steeped in racial inequality. Outside the camp, whispers and criticisms from other regiments, politicians, and citizens painted them as inexperienced and fragile, unworthy of the responsibilities of battle. Yet, for every skeptical glance and every whispered word of doubt, the soldiers of the 54th Massachusetts drew a quiet, unspoken resolve. They trained relentlessly, understanding that each maneuver, each marksmanship exercise, and each hour spent drilling was a small victory against the pervasive assumptions of inferiority. Every bead of sweat and every calloused hand became a testament to their determination to prove that courage was not defined by skin color, and that valor could thrive even in those whom society had long sought to oppress. Carney himself exemplified this spirit, carrying with him the lessons of resilience from his early years and the quiet moral strength forged through secret schooling and spiritual devotion. In every march, every formation, and every shared story, he reminded his comrades that their collective purpose extended beyond military duty. They were symbols of hope, embodiments of the possibility of equality, and living proof that African American men could rise to any challenge with bravery and honor. The bonds forged in camp were unbreakable, each soldier inspiring the next, their shared laughter, shared hardships, and shared determination transforming individual resolve into collective courage. The 54th's unity became a shield against the weight of prejudice, allowing them to walk into the face of danger with unwavering confidence. As the regiment prepared to face the horrors of war, their determination crystallized into something almost tangible. A mission not only to fight the enemy on the battlefield, but to confront the societal barriers that had long sought to suppress their potential. Every obstacle, whether the disdainful stares of other soldiers, the doubts of commanding officers, or the taunts of an unaccepting public was met with steadfast perseverance, with each act of discipline and bravery quietly defying centuries of oppression. Carney and his comrades carried with them the awareness that their courage would become a legacy, that their deeds could inspire those who followed and gradually reshape the nation's understanding of equality and justice. In this way, the 54th Massachusetts was more than a regiment. It was a movement, a symbol, and a living answer to the question that had shadowed African Americans for generations. Could they rise above the limitations imposed by society and claim their rightful place in the story of a nation? In every step toward the battlefield, they answered that question with their actions, hearts full of determination and minds unwavering in the pursuit of dignity, honor, and the chance to prove that bravery knows no color. As the summer of 1863 reached its height, the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, having honed their discipline and steel forged in the fires of training and shared determination, faced a trial unlike any they had encountered. The regiment was tasked with leading an assault on Fort Wagner, a Confederate stronghold perched defiantly on the South Carolina coast, its walls bristling with cannons and its defenders resolute and prepared. From the moment the soldiers set foot on the narrow approach to the fort, the danger was undeniable. Every step forward exposed them to the deadly crossfire of enemy artillery, every advance a testament to the courage they had cultivated over months of preparation and the countless challenges they had already overcome. Among them, William E. Carney, carrying with him the lessons of resilience from his youth and the quiet strength of a life tempered by adversity, pressed forward with unwavering resolve, understanding that the eyes of history and the hopes of countless African Americans rested upon the courage of their march. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, the roar of cannon fire and the staccato rhythm of musket volleys filling the air with a chaos that tested every soldier's nerve. Amidst the smoke and the cries of the wounded, the regiment advanced, determined to prove not only their bravery but their right to stand shoulder to shoulder as equals in a struggle for freedom. It was in this crucible that Carney's character and courage would be etched into history. When the regiment's color-bearer fell, struck down by enemy fire, the flag emblem of the Union and symbol of the ideals they fought for tumbled dangerously close to the ground. Without hesitation, Carney surged forward, grasping the banner even as bullets tore through the air around him. Pain seared his body from multiple wounds, yet he refused to let the flag touch the earth, advancing inch by inch, each movement an act of defiance against fear and oppression, a message to both allies and enemies that honor and duty demanded unwavering commitment. Carney's actions resonated far beyond the battlefield. As he held the flag aloft, the morale of the 54th surged, their courage renewed by the sight of a comrade risking everything to safeguard the symbol of their cause. Every wounded, every staggering step, every moment of despair was met with a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that their struggle was not in vain and that the ideals they defended were worth any sacrifice. The intensity of the battle, with its relentless bombardment and formidable defenses, would have tested even the most seasoned troops. Yet the determination of Carney and his fellow soldiers transformed fear into resolve, chaos into cohesion. Their advance, though met with staggering casualties, embodied the profound truth that bravery is measured not merely by survival but by the willingness to act in the service of something greater than oneself. By the time the assault concluded, the cost was staggering. Comrades lost, bodies strewn across the sand, the fort remaining in Confederate hands. Yet the legacy of valor had been unmistakably established. Carney's courage became a symbol, his steadfast grip on the fallen flag a tangible representation of the pride and resilience of the 54th Massachusetts and African American soldiers across the Union Army. In the midst of death and devastation, he had not only preserved the honor of the regiment, but demonstrated to the nation that African Americans could embody extraordinary bravery and moral fortitude. His heroism in that moment was not an isolated act. It was the culmination of a life shaped by adversity, faith, and an unyielding sense of duty. A moment that would ripple through history to inspire generations, proving that true courage is defined not by the absence of danger, but by the resolve to rise above it, even when the cost is high, and that one man's commitment can illuminate the path for many others to follow. After the harrowing battle at Fort Wagner, William E. Carney's body bore the heavy cost of heroism, each wound a testament to the bravery he had displayed while holding the fallen flag aloft, refusing to let it touch the ground. The pain and injuries sustained on that fateful day were severe enough that, by 1864, he was honorably discharged from the Union Army, leaving the battlefield behind but carrying with him the enduring pride of a soldier who had faced death and emerged as a symbol of courage. Returning to Massachusetts, Carney sought a life of quiet service, a continuation of the steadfast dedication that had guided him through both the trials of enslavement and the crucible of war. He found work as a postal worker, becoming one of the earliest African Americans to hold such a position in the state. And over the course of 32 years, he fulfilled his duties with a reliability and diligence that mirrored the discipline he had exhibited as a soldier, in the simple rhythm of sorting letters, delivering messages, and serving his community. Carney's life demonstrated that heroism is not confined to moments of battle. It can also be expressed through integrity, commitment, and consistent service to one's fellow citizens. Yet, despite the quiet dignity of his post-war life, the nation's recognition of Carney's extraordinary valor on the battlefield had not yet fully caught up to the reality of his deeds. It was nearly 4 decades after the assault on Fort Wagner, in the year 1900, that Carney was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration of the United States, for the fearless courage he had displayed in the face of overwhelming enemy fire. This award marked a historic moment, representing the earliest recognition of African American heroism in the annals of the nation's military history. The honor served not merely as a personal accolade for Carney, but as a powerful statement about the contributions of African American soldiers, affirming that courage, loyalty, and sacrifice are not defined by race but by the actions of those who step forward when duty calls. The award acknowledged the extraordinary bravery he had shown, preserving the flag in the midst of chaos, inspiring his comrades, and challenging the prejudices that had long sought to diminish the role of African Americans in the Union Army. Receiving the Medal of Honor allowed Carney's story to reach beyond the borders of Massachusetts and the confines of military records, entering newspapers, speeches, and publications that celebrated his courage and, in doing, offered a counter-narrative to the long-held assumptions about the capabilities and valor of black soldiers. His recognition provided a model of excellence, demonstrating that African Americans had not only participated in the fight for freedom, but had done so with distinction, leaving an indelible mark on the nation's history. Carney's life after the war, from his years as a postal worker to his active participation in veterans organizations and civil rights efforts, reflected the same steadfastness that had carried him through the battle at Fort Wagner, proving that heroism can endure in many forms, both on and off the battlefield. In honoring him, the nation acknowledged not only a single act of valor, but also the broader struggle of African American soldiers who had risked everything for a cause larger than themselves, setting a precedent that would inspire generations to follow and cementing Carney's legacy as a symbol of courage, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Even after the guns fell silent and the smoke of battle lifted from the fields of the Civil War, the journey for William Hay, Carney and his fellow black soldiers was far from over. Their heroism on the battlefield had shattered long-held assumptions about the courage and capability of African Americans. Yet the struggle for recognition, equality, and justice continued in the years that followed. Carney, carrying both the physical reminders of his sacrifices and the moral weight of his service, understood that bravery was not limited to combat. It could extend into the work of rebuilding a nation and advocating for a people who had been denied their rightful place in society. With the Medal of Honor bestowed upon him in 1900, Carney became a living testament to what African Americans could achieve, a symbol whose story reached beyond the boundaries of the military to inspire a broader fight for dignity and civil rights. Carney immersed himself in veterans' organizations, where he not only shared his experiences, but also ensured that the voices of African American soldiers were heard and respected. Through reunions, commemorative events, and active participation in the Grand Army of the Republic, he connected with comrades who had walked the same perilous path, fostering solidarity and collective pride. These gatherings were more than ceremonies. They were affirmations of identity, courage, and a shared commitment to challenge a society that still harbored deep prejudice. Carney's presence in these spaces signaled that the fight for equality did not end on the battlefield, and that African Americans had earned both respect and a place in the nation's unfolding history. He used his influence to mentor younger generations, imparting lessons about resilience, integrity, and the importance of standing firm in the face of injustice. Beyond the veterans' halls and ceremonial occasions, Carney extended his efforts to civil rights initiatives, recognizing that political and social engagement was essential to transforming the legacy of slavery and discrimination into tangible opportunities for progress. He lent his voice to campaigns aimed at securing the full citizenship rights of African Americans, advocating for fairness, equality, and recognition under the law. His actions demonstrated that heroism was not only measured by the ability to endure cannon fire or survive battlefield chaos, but also by the determination to effect change in society, to fight systemic oppression with the same courage and discipline that had defined his military service. Through these efforts, Carney and his peers became living examples of how the values cultivated on the battlefield, bravery, perseverance, and unyielding moral conviction, could be applied to civic life and social justice, showing that the fight for freedom extended beyond the conclusion of the war. The story of Carney and the 54th Massachusetts Infantry reverberated through communities, inspiring countless African Americans to pursue service, leadership, and activism. Their courage disproved the stereotypes that had been used to justify inequality, creating a narrative that celebrated capability, honor, and resilience. Each tale of valor, each act of integrity, became a beacon for those who came after, illustrating that history is shaped not only by monumental victories, but by the enduring commitment of individuals who refuse to accept limitations imposed by prejudice. Carney's legacy, therefore, was twofold. As a soldier, he had held the flag high under fire, embodying the ultimate courage in the most dangerous of circumstances. As a citizen and advocate, he held the principles of justice and equality high, demonstrating that true heroism encompasses both action and moral leadership. Through his life and example, he inspired generations to recognize their own potential, to confront injustice boldly, and to contribute to a society in which the measure of a person's worth is defined not by the color of their skin, but by the strength of their character, the courage of their convictions, and the legacy they leave for those who follow. William E. Carney's life, marked by courage, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to justice, came to a sudden end in 1908. While performing his duties at the Massachusetts State House, he was caught in a tragic accident, an unexpected event that claimed the life of a man who had already faced far greater dangers on the battlefields of the Civil War. Yet even in death, Carney's legacy could not be diminished, for the impact of his actions resonated far beyond the walls of that state building. He was laid to rest in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where his tombstone bears a replica of the Medal of Honor he had earned decades earlier, a tangible reminder of the bravery that had defined his life and inspired countless others. His story is one of resilience that stretches from the shadow of slavery to the forefront of history, a narrative that reflects the struggle, triumph, and enduring spirit of those who fought not only for their country, but for the recognition of their humanity. Carney's heroism, particularly his unwavering determination at Fort Wagner, symbolizes more than a single act of valor. It represents the courage of an entire generation of African American soldiers who risked everything in a nation that had long denied them equality. He demonstrated that true bravery is measured not by circumstance but by the steadfastness of purpose and the willingness to stand up for what is right, even when faced with overwhelming adversity. His life illustrates the profound truth that heroism is both personal and communal, a combination of individual action and the power to inspire others to rise above prejudice and injustice. Through his service, Carney challenged the stereotypes that sought to limit African Americans, proving that courage, intelligence, and moral fortitude know no color, and that the fight for equality is inseparable from the struggle for freedom. Even decades after his death, Carney's story continues to inspire those who learn of his journey. It is a reminder that acts of bravery, no matter how long ago, ripple forward through history, touching the lives of people who seek courage in their own struggles. From the hidden lessons of his youth to the battlefield of Fort Wagner and the halls of civil service, every chapter of Carney's life reflects a steadfast commitment to excellence, integrity, and the pursuit of justice. His example challenges each of us to confront our own obstacles with determination, to rise in the face of doubt, and to recognize that the efforts we make in pursuit of a greater purpose can leave a lasting mark on the world. Thank you for joining us to honor the remarkable life of William Hay Carney, a man whose courage and sacrifice paved the way for future generations to serve proudly and fight for equality. If you were inspired by his story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can continue exploring stories of bravery, resilience, and the unsung heroes who shaped history. Carney's legacy reminds us that every act of courage, no matter how small it may seem, can light the way for others and help build a world where justice and dignity are within reach for all.